Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Apart from the terrible weather in London, we're in good spirits. We're in good spirits.
Yeah, I do have to say in LA, when it's really sunny and beautiful, it feels cruel. Whereas when it's raining and cloudy, it's like, oh, I would be inside anyway. So this is fine. Not that I sound like such an asshole complaining about sunshine. So I take it back slightly. But
Guys, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the film. I watched it over the weekend, and I have to say it's a film that's in a strange way very well timed because it's uplifting and funny and colourful and everything else in between, which we need right now. So that's pretty good. So yeah, congratulations on that. I just wanted to begin with you guys, just with the kind of the genesis for you in terms of getting involved with the project, and what it was about these characters and their relationship and their story that kind of drew you in. Maybe if Jessica, I get you to answer first.
so I actually auditioned, I think Josh did as well. I auditioned for this movie multiple times. I think almost 5 years ago, there was a different director attached. I went through the whole process. I got down to the final two. I made a homemade music video to try and get cast in this movie. And then it just completely fell apart and disappeared. And I was like, oh, that's really sad. It's gone. And then it resurfaced a year and a half later. And the funny thing about this movie is they had been trying to make it for, I think, over 10 years. It's had a very, very long life before we luckily became involved. But I just fell in love with the story. I fell in love with Julie and her heart and her passion and kind of this incredible neon 80s world that I would get to bop around in. And I think that the film also has some incredible kind of messages for people of all ages, and it does a really wonderful job paying homage to the first one. So I feel incredibly lucky that I got to be a part of it.
And Josh, for you, I mean, obviously you've given the game away that you're a Londoner now. So how did you get involved, and what was it about playing this character in an American character in this particular story? What was it that appealed to you about taking that on?
I mean, yeah, when it was first going around, probably 5 years ago now, I met with Cassidy Lang from MGM and Clay Weiner, and we were discussing the project, but it disappeared as far as I was concerned, and I thought, oh, someone else must have got it. And then years later, it just popped up in my inbox. I was like, Valley Girl? Like, totally a musical? Again? Where did this come from? But yeah, from that point on, I just, I loved the script, and, it was obviously an exciting opportunity for me to be in a musical. I mean, I'm a musician anyway myself, and the chance to play a musician is always going to be a fun one. And also just, I felt like Randy had such opportunity around him for my own imagination, and kind of the chance to inject a bit of wildness into him in my own way. A friend of mine was reading through the script with me, James Lance, and he was like, there's a lot in this which it's you, man. You can do whatever you want with your imagination to create this kind of Randy character here, and bring some of that like edge or whatever. And yeah, I actually also made a little music video, but a very punky one. I did several music videos of, like, Bad Reputation was the main one. I was kind of moshing out in black and white with high contrast. And after a few auditions with Rachel, I was sort of sending in self-tapes. And she hopped on Skype with me a couple of times and just gave me some pointers about the character and really helped me figure out who Randy was. And the more that we did that, the more I just kind of fell in love with him just kind of being there causing trouble and stuff.
Did you know beforehand that in the original one it was Nicolas Cage that had played this character? I mean, obviously Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage is your version is very different to his, but had they given you did you know beforehand that it was him, because it was a long time ago for him in his early career?
Yeah, no, I loved the original. I watched it several times in the run up to making this, and once I found out about the project, I was like, oh, I've got to check out the original. And obviously Nicolas Cage is huge boots to fill, but I really loved what they'd done with the original. At first, I didn't think it needed remaking at all, because I was like, this is a classic. It's amazing. Look at it. It's so authentic. It's got the gristle and edge of real, like, 80s youth about it. And but I just felt that our version was so kind of different in that it's kind of told from the imagination of Julie, you know, and looking back in her memory, and everything's like singing and dancing. And yeah, you know, I wanted to keep some of the authenticity that Nicolas Cage had in his performance, but I thought it was important to try and make it my own as well. And obviously it was a little bit intimidating at the same time, because, you know, people are going to compare me to his performance, but it was a lot of fun. And I know that I and everyone around me put all of their heart and soul into doing the best job that they could to live up to whatever people are expecting from this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the great thing I love about the film is that it makes no bones about what it is. I mean, you're transported almost immediately into this kaleidoscopic Technicolor 80s mall, very synonymous with the 80s. But I mean, the 80s is such a, I mean, it sounds silly to say a renaissance, but obviously because of Stranger Things in particular, it seems to be this great thing of 80s. But it seems to be a great decade to add themes and stories that are very prevalent for today. Jessica, for you, in particular Julie, I mean, what was it about her that spoke to you and her journey? Because it's, you know, it's a journey we've seen many times before, but hers, it feels very fresh and very exciting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think that Amy Talkington did such an incredible job kind of infusing a little more ownership into Julie's story. This isn't a story about a girl who meets a boy and falls in love and turns her life upside down because she's trying to be with this guy. It's the story of a young woman who is excited and passionate and has things that she loves, but there is this feeling that there's something more in the world, and she doesn't quite know how to articulate it or how to explore those things, and she's pushing against the edges of her box just a little bit. But when she meets Randy, it's as if her world explodes, and all of these possibilities suddenly feel just so much more attainable. And you really get to see that in a fun way through her wardrobe over the course of the film, because she's like a sponge. She starts to kind of take in by osmosis his kind of punk cool edge and forms her own Val Schick Madonna punky look. And I love that. I love that she takes something and she makes it her own. And I think that it's such an important message that's in the film. It's not change who you are for those around you or stay the same, but it's you are a consistently changing and growing human, and who you love and what you want to do will always be different. So you just have to listen to your heart and make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people and take chances and have experiences.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I mean, in terms of I just wanted to, maybe as a final question, ask you both about the relationship between Julia and Randy, which is so sweet and so genuine, and you really kind of want them to kind of get together, but almost, you know, that it may or may not work out, but almost you kind of don't want to know, you want to know them in that particular space and then see what the future holds. Maybe starting with you, Josh. I mean, what was it about the relationship and these characters and kind of bringing their story to life that was kind of so exciting for you guys, not to just tell it in a romantic way, but also through a musical and express yourselves in music as well as just in words? There
was so much that was great about this project and exciting, and you know, being in a musical is something I'd never done before, and learning about how to express emotions in acting, but whilst also singing as if you're sort of speaking rather than actually singing and performing like you're doing a music video. You know, that's a very interesting dynamic to work with. You know, and I think also just the story of the two completely different worlds, but the innocence of the romance that blossoms between Julie and Randy. You know, and it was just great working with Jess, and you know, we really got along on set, and it was very sort of easy to kind of create that chemistry, and we had you know, a lot of fun making it.
We did, and I think that for me, I grew up on musicals. I love them so much, and the thing I love about musicals is that characters in them start singing because mere words aren't enough. You have to sing. You have to use music and sound and length and tone to express all of these crazy emotions inside of you, whether it's fear or sadness or joy. And I think that not only is that everything that it means to be a teenager who's falling in love truly for the first time, but I think that's also very 80s. Like there's this earnestness and unapologetic kind of energy that's in all of the music. And I think that that made it a perfect template for telling the story. And yeah, Josh and I just had a really fun time. It's so lovely when you get to work with someone who is passionate and cares and wants to do the work, but still wants to have a good time. And I felt very lucky that we were on the same page in that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. Just very, very quickly as well, one of my favorite franchises of the last couple of years is the Happy Death Day series. And I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, Jessica, if we are, apologies, Josh, for this, but whether we might get a third one, because the second film was the first one's so great, but the second one is so ingenious. I just wondered whether there was any talk of maybe you kind of doing a trilogy, or whether it's kind of the two was good enough.
Thank you for saying that. I love those movies as well. I mean, Chris Landon, who is a genius, has a third movie planned. It's just if and when in this crazy climate and whatever comes of our industry, kind of with everything that's happening, if we can make it right. Because that's the thing, is we don't want to half-ass the third one. And we would need, because it's bonkers. He has told me about it. It is insane. If we get to make it, I do not think people will be disappointed. But I also wouldn't mind if, 20 years down the line, I got to pull a Jamie Lee Curtis and come back and a la Halloween and like be just an ass-kicking like 50-year-old woman, just tree eons later getting trapped again. But I do think that there is probably still life in the franchise. I just don't know what it looks like, but there is still hope.
Fingers crossed. I hope so.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for your time. Absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed the movie, and good luck. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks so much. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey,